Hi there, this is Scott Young and Sean Sturby from Optrics Engineering, and we have another edition of the Optrics Insider. Today we have 4 topics to cover. The first one is we have an update on the Emotet Botnet. Second, we have found an article on school laptops come preloaded with malware. That's interesting. And then there's a Faces of the Riot website. And finally, security researchers have been targeted. So let's start with the Emotet Botnet update. Go ahead, Sean.
So Krebs on Security and a number of other sites are reporting that through collaboration amongst all sorts of police departments and other departments, they were able to not just arrest the purveyors of the Emotet malware, but have actually arrested them and have taken over the command and control servers, or at least some of them, so that at this point they are planning to roll out a update package for it that will uninfect or remove mass uninstall it from anybody who's currently infected on April 25th of 2021.
Interesting. We had spoken about the Emotet botnet in a previous episode, but in short, perhaps remind us quickly on what the Emotet botnet is.
Botnet for hire, it's typically used to send spam and provide or infect other computers. So it's one of the biggest crimeware for hire botnets out there. So that's why Microsoft and all of these legal departments have decided it's time to take them on, and they did.
Nice.
Now, interesting that if they've got control over it now, why aren't they uninstalling it now, and why are they waiting until April 25th?
Good question.
The reason that they're giving is that while they could uninstall it right now, quite often when Emotet is installed, the infected PCs, they can be infected with an additional backdoor. So if they just uninstalled Emotet and left the other one, you wouldn't know that you were infected. Right now, they are planning on releasing a number of utilities and tools to go out so you can scan your network or take a look at your security solution and see if you have been infected by Emotet in the past. And if you have, now you have to come up with your disaster recovery plan. What are you going to do? Standard is nuke from space and install fresh. That's what the industry calls it. Can't trust anything, so basically wipe and reinstall, possibly even get new computers just because. Can't trust them.
For some reason, when you said nuke from space, I forget which movie they had it in, but they had those rods that they shot from satellites down and didn't need to nuke. They just sent a high velocity titanium rod or something like that, and it made your life kind of not so good. But okay, interesting. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about the school laptops that come preloaded with malware.
Yeah, the line I have is hurry, hurry, there's a pandemic on. And that resulted in laptops coming preloaded with malware being sent to schools. So the British schools, the British government had a getting help with technology plan. We go into this lockdown, maybe not everybody has a laptop that the students can use at home. So what did they do? They came up with a plan. Well, it has been revealed that there was a batch of 23,000 laptops that were distributed to a bunch of different schools. Some portion, they're not saying all 23,000 of them, but some portion of those laptops came pre-infected with the Gamaru malware. So they are investigating the issue, and they've found that on a small number of the laptops provided to some schools with their Get Help with Technology program were infected. And they're saying that their laptops are coming into the school is turning them on, getting them configured, and at that point they were being detected that they had this malware on them. So thankfully none of these laptops were ever sent out to the end users, but it's a case of, somebody said, let's do a good thing, but they did it so quickly because of the time constraints that some of the I's didn't get crossed and the T's didn't get dotted.
So that to get infected before delivery, that means that they would have gotten infected at the factory level?
Probably, yes.
Wow. Sometimes you hear about maybe not getting infected at the factory level, but they get intercepted en route and then diverted and potentially put at that point. But it'll be interesting to see if they can find out where did that happen.
Yeah, and it sounds like this was maybe not a tier 1 type provider. It was because there was so much demand for laptops. It's any laptop in a storm sort of thing.
Right.
And so it was, unknown or a less known vendor of laptops, and they just didn't have the same quality control.
Sure, and then it also kind of brings up images of a good James Bond movie where the villain pays off the distributor and says, "Here, I'll top you up with some extra cash if you can install this before it gets to the schools."
Mm-hmm.
You never know; there are unscrupulous people out there. Interesting. All right. Well, we've also heard about obviously the riots that happened in Washington earlier in January, and there is a website called Faces of the Riot. I'm assuming that that's what it pertains to.
Yeah, there were about 800 videos that were posted to the Parler site on January 6th, the date of the riot, from inside and outside the U.S. Capitol buildings. So a security researcher has decided to take those 800 videos and process them through simple open source facial recognition software. This software detected, extracted, and deduplicated all of the faces found in those 800 videos and resulted in over 6,000 individual faces being made available to law enforcement. He's not trying to tie the face to a name or to a person. He's just saying, here's a bunch of faces that were found in these videos. At this point, they're going through those and saying, oh, well, this is obviously a bystander. This is somebody in news. This is somebody in law enforcement, right? And tagging them for that. But if you recognize somebody in any one of these videos, he recommends that you send that information on to the FBI who is investigating the riot. So this does highlight the power of facial recognition. Open source facial recognition software was able to run through these 800 videos and extract 6,000 unique faces. Where else do we have videos and pictures of ourselves posted all over the internet? Social media.
Yeah.
So, it just highlights the problem that is going to happen if we continue to post so much video of ourselves online. We're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would imagine that these open source software that can extract faces, unique faces from videos, and then I would imagine then they can go and search social media and say, who does this match with?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an easy way for them to figure out who is who. I heard London was one of the uh, largest users of facial recognition throughout, and I would imagine other countries are similar. I remember also back when the Vancouver Canucks were in the Stanley Cup and they lost in the finals, and then the riots ensued. That the police used video footage to catch people who were in the riots and damaged
Mm-hmm.
places and made arrests that way. So yeah, everybody with a phone basically is a journalist. Everybody with a phone can capture video, and people post that stuff to social media. So you can't really go into these public things thinking that you're anonymous. That's for sure. Interesting. All right. So the last thing that we want to talk about today are the security researchers who have been targeted. I'm assuming, but well, I don't know actually who is targeting them.
So this is a bit of a long con. Security researchers, they're always posting, found a 0-day exploit in software XYZ, or here's a way to get access to something. And so what's been happening is quite often there's collaboration. A company might say, hey, you're a security researcher. Can you write an article for our website about what you did with this malware, or with how you reverse engineered this, how you got access to something? The iPhone 0-day was most recent. Well, a security researcher revealed fairly recently that he was targeted by what he suspects is North Korean hackers. They wanted him to collaborate on something that they discovered, and so they sent him some program files, some Visual Studio files. He opened them up and looked at it, and yeah, it was confirmed that this was a new 0-day. It was a way to get access to something, but it buried in that sample file that the security researcher received and opened, it had a backdoor. So it went and installed additional malware on his computer that he was using to do this research on. And they say that the reason why is that the North Korean hackers want to extract anything that he had available. He's obviously doing his own research and has his own 0-day bugs and research. So they were able to suck things off of his computer, and now they have them.
Hmm. Sneaky. Now, that kind of actually brings up an interesting comment on when you have all these security researchers looking at mean, nasty bugs, that they must have a way of sandboxing files so that they don't, well, they can unpack them, unload them, execute them, and follow the trail and see what happens. Yeah. But being able to do that in a safe way, much like bomb disposal people, or I have this scene in my head from a long time ago. There was the movie The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. At the very beginning of the movie, they bring in a doll that they think has some sarin gas in it, and of course they do something, and it's in a box, and it releases the gas so that they're protected and they're able to vent it or deal with it. Of course, something doesn't go as planned, and things, they have to react to it. But my point is that there should be a safe way to launch these things without getting infected by whatever you're evaluating. So I'm surprised that a security researcher would launch this not thinking about the backdoor being launched.
Yeah, he was just reviewing the code, but as part of the project files, it included a backdoor. So yeah, usually they do have a sandboxed or an isolated system. Another security researcher posted that they went and they were reverse engineering a piece of malware. They were putting in their breakpoints, a way of interrupting the process flow so that they could inspect what the program had done up to that point. Mm-hmm. Put it in the wrong spot, and it ended up actually infecting his sandbox machine, which is why it was sandboxed in a lab, completely separate, properly taken care of.
Interesting. So it's almost like the Trojan horse kind of idea, where you bring it in, you think you're protected, then the back door opens and away you go.
Long con.
Yep. Interesting. All right. So to recap, we talked about an update about the Emotet Botnet. We also talked about the school laptops, which were preloaded with malware. We talked about the faces of the Riot website. And finally, talked about security researchers who were targeted by, sounds like, North Korean hackers. Interesting. Anything else you wanted to bring up, Sean?
Well, it's interesting that the security researcher got social engineered. So it just highlights that you want to keep your mind about you, or don't get stuck in that, oh, it's probably safe, I know who this person is mindset. Always double check.
Yep, that's a good point. All right, thank you, Sean. As always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend, or week, I should say. Bye.